Welcome back to the Photographer's Notebook podcast. On today's show, we're discussing photography training and workshops. Photography has changed drastically over the past 5 to 10 years. With smartphones and affordable digital SLR cameras, more people are shooting their own images like never before. They serve as a chronicle of our daily lives, and learning how to take great images helps tell our stories. On the show today, my guests will talk about the importance of photography, why educating yourself in photography workshops are important, the various classes that are offered, and new trends in photography learning. So, whether you're a beginner at taking photos, an amateur, or even a professional, this show has something for you. So let's get into it.
You're listening to the Photographer's Notebook podcast, the destination for inspiring photographer interviews and conversations. On every episode, we bring you photography tips and tricks to bring your photography to the next level. We also bring you down-to-earth guidance for couples arranging their weddings and some innovative information for entrepreneurs to pump up their business. Let's get started. Here's your host, Daniel Douglas.
Welcome to the Photographer's Notebook Episode 2. In the first episode, we discussed concert photography with my guest, Mike Bird, a concert photographer in Washington, D.C. I met Mike in a training workshop that I attended, and I'm very happy to have on the show today Marie Jobar from Capital Photography Center in Washington, D.C. It was through Capital Photography Center that I met Mike. Marie is the creator of Capital Photography Center and who was, for more than a decade, the education programs manager and corporate trainer at Pen Camera, one of Washington, D.C.'s longstanding photography retailers. Marie developed that company's educational program, growing it from 3 topics in 2003 to almost 50 in 2011, and earned it the reputation of having the area's largest selection of classes with the widest variety of topics. When Pen Camera closed its doors in 2012, Marie took the leap and created Capital Photography Center, where hobbyists, amateurs, and professional photographers could continue learning and grow. Welcome to the show, Marie.
Well, thank you, Daniel. I'm thrilled to be here.
And I am so happy to have you on today's show, Marie. You just don't know how excited I am to do this after a little brief pause in producing the podcast. So I want to get right into a couple of things, if we will. During the introduction, I mentioned how you got started and just a little bit of a backstory, how I met Marie. One day I was just going into Pen Camera looking at some gear, and I noticed that they were closing shop. And that's when I actually met Marie. Now, Marie, you probably don't remember that, but I do. So it was from there. And when I talked to Marie, she was talking about different classes and things that she was doing. So I got a little bit interested in that. And I took one of the courses, and I believe it was the one about getting started in event photographer with one of your trainers. Mm-hmm. So if you will, Marie, just fill in the blanks a little bit, something that I may have forgotten about who you are, how you got started, and what does Capital Photography Center mean to you?
All right. Well, great. I started Capital Photography, like you mentioned. I started it when Pen Camera closed. So I was running their classes and had found a great group of instructors to teach people. And people loved it. They loved that there was a great resource that they could go and they could learn photography. So when Pen Camera announced that they were closing, I thought, oh my goodness, there's obviously this need for learning in the DC area, and people definitely want to learn. So that's when I decided to just go ahead and start Capital Photography Center. I didn't want there not to be a resource for people to be able to learn more about photography. So my goal with Capital Photography Center was to just create that resource where people could sign up and take great classes with wonderful instructors and just really continue their learning to perfect their photography and to reach their photography goals. So
were you a little nervous about starting it? I mean, you were working full time.
A little nervous? Oh my goodness. Yes, I was very nervous. I had never run my own business before. I was always an employee somewhere. And here I am going to just go out on a limb and start a business. So one thing I knew though, I knew how to run classes. I knew what was involved with that. I knew what was needed for organizing. I knew what was needed for instructors. I knew what was needed for, from the client's perspective or the customer's perspective. So I had that and I was very confident about that. What I didn't know was how to run a business. So, so I have to say the first year was just unbelievably life-changing, just learning so much about running a business.
How did you get started? How did you get started in training? Were you a trainer prior to Pen Camera, or how did that all happen?
So I wore many hats before Pen Camera, but I was in management in women's clothing, and as part of management, you have to train your employees. So not only was I training, let's say, salespeople, I was also training managers. And I just found that I really liked training. I really liked helping people understand new things or systems or procedures or whatever it was we were, supposed to teach. I just really enjoyed that aspect of it. So when I started at Pen Camera, so I decided to leave women's clothing because retail management is just brutal, the hours and the amount of work. So I decided I wanted my own life back. So I decided to get back to photography, and I applied at Pen Camera, and I was so thrilled that they hired me. But when they hired me, they really didn't have a training program. So I was just more or less thrown out there on the floor, and they said, okay, work with so-and-so and she'll help you figure it all out. And she did a great job, but really there was no training. So I approached the owners at Penn and say, look, you don't have a training program, and I can make one for you. And I can help. Anytime we have new people come on board, I can train them. I can work with the existing employees and, coordinate training with the vendors. And they were very receptive to it. So that's what I did. I kind of created the position at Penn, and then I created their training program. And then with that, they decided, that we needed more. We needed now to help the customers learn. And so they wanted to offer classes. And so I started doing that as well.
I really miss Pen Camera because that was like the premier pro shop in DC to go to. And so I really miss that. But in the training, how do you select, or what's your process to get trainers? I know you teach a few classes, but you also have other trainers. Now, I know who some of those trainers are, but I want you to tell the audience about how you go about selecting these trainers, who they are, and maybe pick one or two to highlight.
Okay. Well, the main thing when I'm considering someone for a trainer, so sometimes people approach me and say, oh, I see what you're doing. It looks fabulous. Would you consider me to be an instructor? Or sometimes I see people, or I hear people at a talk, or somebody might mention somebody that they listened to at a talk or a presentation, or maybe even at a class. And I might sit in on one of their sessions or listen into them or find out more about them, and I might approach them. So either way. But the most important thing I look for is, well, one, they have to know the material. You can't teach photography if you don't know photography. So that's number one. Do you have the skills? Do you know photography? And then number two, I have to say this might even be a little more important, is can you teach? It's one thing to know photography, but if you can't communicate what you know and you can't make people understand what you know, then you can't be a teacher.
Do you look at their curriculum? Do you ask them, do they have like an outline of what they want to teach? Do you sit down with them and do a mock training with them?
I wouldn't say I do a mock training. What I usually do is we usually meet and discuss that. And everybody's going to have their own little specialty or their own strengths. So I might come across an instructor who's wonderful, let's say at wildlife or nature photography or something like that. And so together, once we know that, okay, that's your strength, what can we do? What can we offer? So we'll kind of go back and forth like, oh, what if we tried this? Or what if we tried that? Or what if we went here or held a class there? And then we, really drill it down to the small details. Okay, how much time would we need? How many people? What are the logistics? What kind of time do we want to go to that location at? So really it's a joint decision. I'm not going to say, this is what I want you to teach and here's how you're going to do it. I really rely on the instructors to bring what they have to offer, and let's work together to make a fabulous class instead of me telling them this is what you're going to do. I don't want that responsibility. I want to tap into their talents and bring their talents out for the people who are going to attend their classes.
I can actually tell you and tell the audience that I have taken several of Marie's classes with Capital Photography Center, and I met some really, really great photographers. And as I said at the top of the show, one photographer that I met, Mike Bird, who's just a phenomenal concert photographer. And I met him through one of Marie's classes. And after that, I really liked the way that guy taught. And so I said, I'm going to take some more of these courses. It couldn't hurt. Now, I've been shooting since the days of film. But you never stop learning in photography. It's an ongoing thing, which brings me up to my next question is, if someone came to you and said, why study photography? What answer would you give them? And before you answer that, what Marie and I talked about before we started the broadcast, I said I had a bit of a surprise. My grandson, who graduated from college this year,
wow,
is an avid photographer.
Huh.
And I knew that. Now he's 23 years old now. And for his graduation gift, I gave him a professional grade camera. I just hooked him up with a kit.
Oh, man.
And yesterday he actually called me and was asking me questions about photography and whether or not he should take any courses. And this is a true story. I didn't coach him in this. And I said, well, you know what? I'm actually doing a podcast tomorrow on photography training. So if he was sitting in front of you and asked you why study photography, and he's really good at it, what would you say to him?
Wow. Well, I think that it's really important that people understand the fundamentals of photography. So, you could have a great eye, and you could capture amazing images, but you can take that and be even better if you really understand what tools you have to work with, what the fundamentals are. So, if you want to craft an image instead of just take an image, if you really want to craft an image, if you want to control the light, or you want to control the backgrounds, or you want to purposely and deliberately tell a particular story with an image, then you need to know the very fundamentals of photography at the very least. And then once you have those under your belt, then you're going to continue growing, and you're going to start exploring other things that you can learn in photography that are only going to be more tools in your tool bag to help you tell better stories. So, again, the main message is you can be predictable with your results, with your images. You can deliberately tell a story, a very specific story. You can, by using the settings and the different tools that you have available, you can control the look of an image, and you can control the story you want to tell. But without those tools, you may capture great images, but are they really going to be able to tell the story that you want to tell? And can you predictably tell that story? Can you go out and say, I am going to go out and tell this story. I'm going to capture the images to tell this story. And that's what learning photography will do for you.
And I think storytelling is a big part of it. I know there have been times when I struggled, like taking some photographs, and I said, well, what am I trying to convey here? If you sat down with this image that I photographed and you looked at it and said, I don't know what he's trying to say here. I just see some people in here, or I see a bush. Let's talk about storytelling for a minute, because I think that's hard to teach. And as an instructor, and for people who are not professional photographers, they may be amateurs and they want to learn how to take better images. What can they do, and what courses that you offer, if any, will help that individual tell good stories in their images?
Okay. Well, every picture can tell a story, or like you say, can just not say anything or leave us confused. So the famous saying is a picture is worth 1,000 words, and that still holds true. You can use your pictures to convey joy, to convey misery, to convey sadness, to convey warmth, cold. I mean, you can just tell so many different stories with your images. So once you have the fundamentals under your belt, then it's time to really get out there and start shooting. And I think the classes are just a great way to take your photography, let's say, to the next level. So depending what you want to learn, anytime you're with somebody who's guiding you, you're going to come away with stronger skills. So if you take a class where you're actually out in the field, photographing at a certain location, let's say we're going to learn macro photography, or we're going to go to the zoo, or we're going to photograph waterfalls, or we're going to learn, let's say, flash photography, whatever it is, there is somebody, the instructor is there guiding you. And the classes are all small, let's say 8 to 10 people, maybe 12 at the most. So everybody has really good access to the instructor and gets a lot of attention from the instructor. So let's say you're out there shooting waterfalls and it's just not working for you. Well, the instructor's there and they're going to say, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. Well, let's try this and let's change this one setting to that and then try it again. And so you go, oh, okay, well, gosh, that's all it took. Shoot. Okay, now I got it. And so you leave the class with those stronger skills. So we have so many different classes. We offer, let's say, 15 to 20 different classes a month on really anything you want to learn. We have food photography, night photography.
And that's what, that was my next question. Let's talk about, some actual classes that you offer. Let's start with, what is the most popular class that you offer? The ones that you seem to fill up time and time again.
The most popular class is the DSLR Photography Basics. So that could be for digital SLRs or mirrorless cameras or any camera that you can control the exposure with. And by exposure, ISO, aperture, and shutter. That class we offer, let's say, 2 to 3 times a month because people just want to get off auto. In auto, we get a nice picture one time, we take the same picture a minute later, and we get a totally different look. So we can't really control the way our images look. So how do we get off auto? And that's really what people want to learn. So that's our most popular class, hands down. And then after that, it's really the outdoor shooting classes. And we don't really have one particular one that's super popular. They're all very popular because people want the hands-on out there in the field shooting. So I would say those. And then one other one that's very popular is the Lightroom classes. We offer 3 different Lightroom classes, and we take all these images and we come home and then what do? We have a computer full of images. Well, how do we organize them, and how do we find them? and then how do we edit them? And then that's what Lightroom does. So that's also a very popular class, and we offer that monthly as well. So
just for those who may not know what Lightroom is, just give a little brief explanation of what Lightroom is.
Sure. Lightroom is an Adobe product. You can, they made, let's say this, Photoshop was made for graphic designers and photographers and artists and creators and many different types of creative individuals. Lightroom was made just for photographers from the ground up. So in Lightroom, the two main sections that people find most beneficial is how to organize your images, which is the Lightroom library module. So you can organize and search for your images instead of, without Lightroom, you have to open folders and find out, what folder would I put that image in? And you have to just search for the folder and then open it and close it and keep searching. In Lightroom, you can very easily sift through thousands and thousands of images and find the one you're looking for. So it's a database. So, and then the other huge section in Lightroom is the develop module, and that's where we edit our images. And the editing tools now in Lightroom are amazing. You can do, I'd say 95% of your work in Lightroom and not even need Photoshop. So the only time you really need Photoshop is if you have very complicated edits, or maybe you want to work with layers or composites, things like that. But other than that, Lightroom is just the program to use for organizing and editing, whether you shoot RAW or JPEG, either one.
So if when you offer the Lightroom classes, are the students required to bring their own computers? Do you have a lab that they can go to use computers with Lightroom on it?
No, people need to bring their own laptops with them, and many times people bring their desktop computers. So they don't have a laptop, but they want to figure out this Lightroom, so they'll bring they're welcome to bring their desktop computers. But yeah, we don't have a lab, so they'll just bring their laptops.
And so let's talk about the outdoor shooting in field.
Mm-hmm.
What is that like? Pick one.
Gosh, one? Just one?
Well, yeah, we can talk. I'll talk about one that I took, but you pick one.
Okay, so let's just say we're going to do our macro class, for example. Actually, you know what? Let's just say we're going to do our family and children photography class.
Okay.
So people go on the website. Hopefully people do find our website. We come up very well in SEO. We come up very well in searches. So if people don't know about us and they're just looking for photography classes, our site will come up. So, and then they can just click on the classes tab and they scroll through by date. We just list everything by date. So they can scroll through, let's say, this family and children photography class. That's on September 21st. This sounds wonderful. They read the little description and then they decide, yeah, I'm going to take that. So they just click on the registration. And that's one other thing I'll have to say. I think our communication from start to end is really very good. The description of the class is very thorough and accurate. They register. It's very straightforward how to register and pay. And then once they finish registering, they immediately get a confirmation letter, tells them where to go, what to bring, what the instructor's phone number is, all kinds of detail, what gear they need. So all that is listed. So, and then a couple of days before the class, they get a little reminder letter, and it has all that information in it again. So there they go. They show up to the class. And, the instructor is there. They're all set up. They're waiting for them. And then the class begins. So we usually start with introductions. We kind of want to have an idea of who's attending the class and why are you here? What do you want to learn today? What made you sign up for this class? And that's really important because we want to make sure we're addressing everybody's needs. So if we know what people's needs are, then we can make sure that we're addressing them. And then the classes, like I say, they're all pretty small. This family and children is only 8 people. So everybody, gets to sit in. They listen to, let's say, the lecture portion. In this particular class, there's really no shooting because we're photographing, because we're doing family and children, and it's just a little difficult to bring a family in. But we ask the participants to, let's say, bring some of their favorite photos that they might have taken of family and children, and we do a nice little critique and maybe offer them ways to maybe improve the photo, if by chance. So that's pretty much how that class goes. Lots of opportunity to ask questions and get help from the instructor.
And we will make sure that we have your website in our show notes for those who don't want to go and try to search for it. We'll have the links to a lot of the things that we're talking about in the show notes. Now, I want to talk about a class that I took. And again, as I mentioned before, I took several. A couple of them stand out, but one that I was just really happy to take was the sports photography with Mitchel Layton.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually photographed at the Verizon Center. The Verizon Center is in Washington, D.C. And it was the Georgetown Hoyas played a basketball game, team from North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
And I was the only one there in that class.
Well, that class was only open to 2 people.
Right.
So, because, you're shooting right under the net.
And that, to me, that was so exciting. And although it was college basketball, I'm sitting right there under the net. Mitchell asked me, "Are you afraid of heights?" I'm like, "No. Why are you asking me that?" He said, "Because we're going to go up in the rafters and check out the strobes. And so if you're afraid of heights, then I'll just go up and do it." So we went up in the rafters, and it was just, to me, really exciting to work with a working live sports photographer, watching what he does, getting tips from him. And I got a couple of good shots there, but, and the thing was, and we had a press pass. ESPN was there. I got to talk to some of those guys. And to me, it's that you see this stuff on TV, and when do you get a chance to do that? And that course gave me the opportunity to do that. And so it piqued a little bit of an interest in me to do some more sports kind of photography. So I ended up shooting a wrestling match for a local high school based upon and using the techniques that Mitchell taught.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also interested in shooting boxing. Now, I don't know how to go about doing that, but I'll get that figured out. So that was one of the classes that I took that I was pumped. I was really pumped. Afterwards, the media's there. You're doing the press conference and you're seeing how all these working photographers and writers and bloggers are doing. And to me, I probably never would have had that opportunity to do something like that if I didn't take the course that's offered through Capital Photography Center.
Yeah. Well, that was really an exciting class, because the access is just amazing. You're sitting there right under the net. I mean, you just can't do that. You need that access. And that's what we provide in that class. And then in a lot of other classes, too, we provide special access depending where we're shooting. So sometimes you just get that opportunity to take a class and photograph something that you could never have access to otherwise. But you mentioned something that it really sparked your interest in, let's say, sports photography. So that happens a lot. People will take a class on portraiture or on night photography or, on whatever topic, nature photography, and they'll realize it's like, oh my gosh, I really like this. And they'll continue growing in that area. But the class is what helped them define what they like or maybe what they didn't like. Maybe they don't like portraiture. They took the class, they loved the class, but they realized, I don't really enjoy photographing people. I'm going to start, maybe I'll enjoy photographing nature more.
Right.
So it's nice that the classes really help people define their interest. And then once it's defined, then there are other classes that they can take to continue to learn and grow.
And I think it's important too, Marie, that while most of your students, your attendees, are probably amateurs. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, amateurs, and some of them very advanced amateurs, but
Right.
some of them just, beginners, middle range, and then advanced amateurs. And from time to time, a pro. Maybe the pro might be looking at some of the software issues, but mostly amateurs, yes.
That's why I brought that up. And I'm bringing that up for a reason. So any pro photographers out there were saying, oh, well, that's too amateurish for me. No, it really isn't. If you really look at the courses that CPC has to offer, and I'll mention one. I haven't taken it yet. And Marie, you and I talked about this before. It's on food photography. And the reason I want to take that course is if you look at it, the type of shooting that I do, and if you go out, I'll use weddings as a perfect example. You're cutting across every genre of photography. You're looking at architectural photography. CPC offers that. You're looking at food photography. Again, Capital Photography Center offers that. You're looking at portraiture. You're looking at all of these different aspects of photography. And Capital Photography Center offers all of those different genres. And so for me, I'm looking like, yeah, okay. What's the big deal about food photography? Well, if you're shooting a wedding and the bride and the family has spent a tremendous amount of money to get the venue set up and the food and all of that, they want those images and they want them to look right. They want them to look nice. And so you can't go wrong if you don't know food photography. Like, I really don't know food photography about setting up. I've learned a lot by going to YouTube. But there's no substitute than getting hands-on.
Right.
Actually going and looking at this and watching a pro do this. And so I'm signing up for, I know I missed it the last time. And I just looked the other day and I saw that it is offered again. And I think that class size is 10.
Yeah. Actually, that class size is 12, but
12.
There's three. There's three people, three instructors. Renee Comet's the instructor, and then we have Bonnie Benwick from the Washington Post, and then we also have myself assisting as well. So we're 12 people with three instructors, let's say.
And you heard what Marie just said. You have a professional food photographer. You have someone from the Washington Post there. I mean, you cannot. You just can't discount the things that you can learn, the connections that you may make while doing this. And I got to tell you, even though I've gained a lot by taking courses with Capital Photography Center.
That is so good to hear. That's how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to sign up for a class. One, you're supposed to have a good time. And two, you're supposed to leave the class with added skills or new skills or perfected skills. So it's fun, but it's also a great way to learn. And that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's a perfect way to learn. And again, I've been shooting for quite some time now, but you never stop learning in photography. You can't, especially in the digital age.
That's so true.
So we talked about your typical students. We did talk about some of the courses and types of courses that you offer. I noticed last year, I believe it was last year or this year, that you offered something new. And what it was, you offered a course, and I believe you went to Italy.
Oh, yeah, it's a photo workshop. Yeah.
Right. Talk about that, because you didn't offer that when you first started.
No. So we've started doing some travel workshops. So, but we only started it, let's say, I think last year, 2018. So we offered 2 last year. We went to the Smoky Mountains in the spring. So that was our very first travel workshop. It was an amazing time.
Was that in Tennessee?
Yeah,
Okay.
Tennessee, Smoky Mountains, Tennessee. So that was our first workshop. It was wonderful. Getting our great opportunities to photograph in that beautiful park. And then in the fall, we offered a photography workshop in Italy, in Tuscany. So again, another amazing trip where we're just a group of, let's say, 10 at the most photographers staying at this beautiful winery resort in Tuscany. And we have our own driver. We can go wherever we want to go. We have our meals, our breakfast and our dinner, extravagant meals every day. Walk right out of your door at the winery and beautiful sunrises over the vineyards. I mean, it's just an amazing trip. Seeing or traveling to some of these historic walled cities, the ancient cathedrals. So Tuscany will do that again this year. We did last year. We're going to do it again this year. Not sure if we'll do Tuscany next year. I'd like to kind of change it up a little bit. We might offer different locations for next year. But those are just a great way to be totally immersed in photography in beautiful locations.
Let me put a little bug in your ear, if I may.
Oh, okay, good.
Offer one going to Alaska.
My God, that would be awesome.
I have this itching desire to shoot in Alaska.
Wow.
And I looked around and I have not found anything that's offering going to Alaska. And I'm willing to bet that workshop will sell out quickly.
I would think so. You know, people want to travel. They want to go to great places. And they want somebody who's going to show them where to go once they're there.
Right, exactly.
So when I do when we do the travel workshops, I am usually paired with another instructor. Well, not in Italy because I know Italy well, but for example, we went to the Smoky Mountains and I wasn't that well versed in the location. So I had another instructor who was very well versed in the location and he worked with me. So we did the workshop together. So if we were to do, let's say, Alaska, since I'm not that well versed in where to go, I'd find somebody who is. So you can just know that if I put a travel workshop online, you're going to be taken to great places to capture the light at the best time. And I'm going to make sure of that by finding somebody who can get us there.
I would be one of the first to sign up.
Well,
sure.
Stay tuned. We'll see. Who knows what'll show up for next year.
So are there any new courses that you don't have already listed, or new workshops or resources that you're planning to offer that you can talk about now?
What we're going to be offering really soon, or going to be listing, let's say, really soon, is going to be our holiday classes. And those are always a lot of fun, where we'll photograph, the holiday lights at different places. We might go to the Meadowlark, I forget what they call it, the Meadowlark Garden of Lights, or we might go to the Mormon Temple and photograph those lights, or Glow in Georgetown. So we'll have a variety of holiday classes that we'll be offering. So that would be, what to look for that. The other thing that we have that I just want to mention briefly, on our website, one thing that is kind of new is we added a new tab, and the tab is called Resources. So you could click on that Resources tab, and it's what it says. If you want to find where the local photography stores are or what services they offer, we list that. If you want to find out maybe some nearby photo exhibits, like what's on exhibit at the Smithsonian or the different places, we list that as well. We list helpful accessories that would be good to have in your bag. And we list also interesting places to photograph. So there's a whole bunch of that with a bunch of listings under that with links to the location. So that would be a good place to explore. There's nothing here that's Capitol Photography Center related. We just want people to have a resource that helps them either get the gear they need, or know where to get the gear, or find fun places to photograph, or learn about, some fun photography exhibits. We just want to provide that link to help people, find out more.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I haven't visited that tab on the website yet. But one of the things, because when I travel, going to conferences, photography conferences and things of that nature, in a town, I would like to know, where's the best place to go? What's picturesque? Or, where should I go to photograph? And sometimes I've even looked for example, when I was down in Georgia for my grandson's graduation, I went down to Savannah and I tried to find a photography walk or something like that. I saw nothing that mentioned that. So I think that's really helpful to have on the website, especially for those who may be traveling into Washington, D.C. on vacation, especially those of you who come to the Cherry Blossoms. Capitol Photography Center offers a class. I took that class as well, and you will learn a lot and you'll get some great images. So, go to her website, look at these things, and just pay attention. The other thing too that you have on your website, which I thought was interesting, and other websites, training websites don't have this. You have a student showcase.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And I always look at that and I say, wow, I look at these images, and some of those images are fantastic. And I'm saying, who are these people taking these images?
Yeah.
And so you pick, I don't know how you choose who would go into the showcase.
So every time we do a class where there's shooting involved, mostly our out in the field classes, not
Right.
for example, not our flash class. We're
Right.
learning, so anytime we're out in the field shooting, we send people an email afterwards, and we want to hear about how they liked the class. We offer them a chance to do a little survey to give us feedback, positive or negative. Hopefully it's all positive. But then we also offer them the opportunity to send us some of their images, and we'll post them on our student showcase. So this, again, is just a way to, people like to see, what did my fellow classmates shoot? Or people who didn't even take the class just want to look and see, what are people shooting when they take this class or that class? So it's just a fun way to share pictures. And do you know how good it feels when we put somebody's pictures up there, or we put a collection of their images up there? Just so happy. It's like, oh my gosh, you chose my picture, you put it on the showcase. So we're just looking for pictures that tell somebody's story. So they took the class, they compose these images that tell their story, and we want to showcase them. So,
and I think that's a really good idea to do that. And before we go, I want to mention a couple of other things.
Sure.
Number one, a lot of folks are using smartphones to take photographs. And Mike and I talked about this, and I've talked to other photographers as well. Some photographers kind of like turn their nose up. And I said, well, you really can't, because the optics on some of those devices are really good. Do you offer classes in smartphone photography?
Oh, absolutely. We have a couple different classes on smartphones. Mainly it's the smartphone class, and we do it at a couple different locations. So, and then we will actually, that's one new one. We'll be adding more of just out in the field, where the whole class is just out in the field with your smartphone. So so definitely, it's not the equipment you have that is going to make, that's going to capture an amazing image. It's you and your vision. So you can use the most expensive DSLR, or you can use your smartphone. It doesn't matter. What are you framing up, and how are you going to tell the story? That's what's going to be, you're putting your own spin on it. So definitely smartphones are exciting to use for images.
Right. And the other thing is, and I have another podcast that's coming up, and I'm talking to a photographer who transitioned from still to motion. And she's going to talk about how photographers, whether you're an amateur or not, how you can transition from shooting stills into video work. So do you have, or are you planning, if you don't have, any courses on what I like to call motion?
That is something I would love to offer, is motion or video photography. The thing is, like with all the classes, if I don't have the right instructor, I can't offer the course. So I would love to offer a video course. I just have yet to find the right person who can really teach people how to do that. So at this point, I'll say no, but I'm very receptive to making that a yes one day, provided I have the right instructor, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
So I just want to tell our listeners out there that Marie has graciously offered a gift certificate of the value of $99, and we are going to select one lucky listener at random to win this gift certificate. The details on how to do that will be in the show notes. So tell your friends. It's going to be posted on my website. I believe, Marie, you'll post it on your website as well?
I'll probably there's no way for me to post it other than in a blog. So I'll put it in a blog for sure.
Sure. Great. So is there anything else that maybe I left out, or something that you want to tell the listeners about Capitol Photography Center or training in general?
Yeah, just a couple of things. The blog. One thing I did want to point out to people that we do have a blog, and we've been posting a blog article maybe every 2 to 3 weeks for the last 7 years. So there's just a ton of information on our blog, articles on how to shoot the moon, how to shoot sports, tips for portrait photography, tips for food photography, whatever, how to use Lightroom. There's all kinds of articles there. So that would be another great learning resource. And if they want to join in and get our newsletter, then they'll always be aware of what the new classes are and when they're coming out. So, and then the other thing is, I just want to mention we have an Instagram account and a Facebook account, and we love seeing people's pictures and sharing them or promoting other people's work through Instagram or Facebook. So if you're using those two platforms, tag us, Capitol Photography Center, and let us, spread the word of your images by reposting or sharing what you're doing. So in closing, I guess the thing I'd want to say to people is don't give up. Keep learning. You're not going to learn photography in a day or a week, but keep at it, and you can go wherever you want to go with your photography. You just have to keep at it. You'll always be learning. Keep moving forward. Yes, exactly. Marie, I know that you have a busy schedule, so I really, really want to thank you for taking time out today to do this podcast. There was a lot of good information in there, and we will have all of these different links that I talked about and Marie talked about in the show notes. Marie, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show. Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was really a lot of fun, and I'm just so happy. I'm thrilled that you asked me. Thank you. Thank you, Marie. Visit the Capitol Photography Center's website at capitalphotographycenter.com. Be sure to check out the show notes for all of the links on today's show and information on how to enter the giveaway contest. As always, thanks for stopping by. Subscribe to the show from your favorite podcast app or hit us up on the Photographer's Notebook website. See you next time. Thanks for listening to the Photographer's Notebook podcast. Be sure to visit thephotographersnotebook.com to join the conversation, access the show notes, subscribe, and discover our fantastic bonus content. Spread the word by leaving a rating and review on iTunes.